even though it may not feel like it right now, things can get better. It may not happen quickly, it probably won't. But if you can get on the right track, things will slowly change and they'll get better. And being on the right track, there will be setbacks, there will be relapses, there will be all sorts of stuff like that. But if you continue to be able to move forward in really small increments, it can make a huge difference in your life.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Spotlight, the podcast where we highlight people who are helping others turn their pain into purpose. I'm your host, Kelly Wright, and today we have our guest, David G., and he's going to be talking about all his work that he does with counseling, stand-up comedy, author and founder of Stand Up for Mental Health. Here we have David G. Hi.
Hey,
Hi.
thanks for having me.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you just tap into what you do and how you're helping others. But let's start with this. David, please tell us a bit about your early life and your career path. What drew you into the fields of counseling and comedy?
Okay, so my mental health problems began when I was about 16. I have bipolar, but it also manifests as depression, and that's when it began. And I attempted suicide, and I ended up in a psych ward. And when I got out of the psych ward, so nobody talked about mental illness, mental health back then. And when I got out of the psych ward, it was awful. I felt broken. I felt like I would never be whole again. I felt so ashamed of myself that I would see people walking down the street towards me that I knew previous to being hospitalized, and I would run around the corner to hide from them. I would say over and over in my head, I am nothing. I am nobody. I am invisible. And that's how I lived for almost 20 years. So I went around for 20 years with undiagnosed, untreated depression slash bipolar. And it colored everything in my life. I used to be a musician back then. And there were days, sometimes weeks, where I could not play. Like I would sit down with my guitar and nothing would come out. And at the time I thought, oh, I'm not inspired today. But I realize now those were depressive episodes. So anyhow, I finally got diagnosed in my 30s. And my psychiatrist, she kept on saying, David, you're depressed. You need to go on medication. And I'm like, no, but those medications will change my personality. And she's like, yeah, I think that's the whole point. And so I finally went on these meds. And I want to stop here and I want to say meds are not for everyone. I'm not here to push meds on anyone, but they help me. And I started to feel better. And at the time, I thought, you know something? I think I want to do stand-up comedy. And I was also getting my counselor training at that point too. So they sort of happened at the same time. And I went to a club to do an amateur night. And it was like, picture this. It was this club that sat about 200 people. There were maybe 20 people there that night, like a big empty cavern. And I got up there, I did my set. I didn't get a single laugh. And I thought, okay, that's it. I'm never going back. But then I took a comedy course, and the next time I got up, the place was packed with all our friends and supporters, and it was just an amazing experience. I knew I had to do comedy. And then a few years later, I got asked to teach a stand-up course at a local community college. It's a night course, has nothing to do with mental health, but I would see people going through the class and they would have these life-changing experiences. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to give this to people who wanted this comedy, but who also wanted the life-changing experience? And that's what gave me the idea for Stand Up for Mental Health.
Yes, I love that. I love that story. Yes, so okay, I wanted to ask, in the midst of that struggle that you were dealing with, what kept you going, if anything?
That's a really good question. You know something? I don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know what kept me going. I guess part of what kept me going is, like I say, I was a musician for a bunch of years during that time. And I think that kept me going, even though I had a lot of setbacks in my music career and ultimately I had to stop playing because of problems with my wrist. But that kept me, I guess, wanting to be a successful musician kept me going. And there was something else that kept me going. And I don't know what it is. Like after my wrist problems and I couldn't play anymore, I was suicidal for like 2 years. I just plunged into this horrible depression because I thought there's nothing I can do in it. Like that's all I wanted. That was my dream. I can't do anything else in this world. And yet I never attempted. Maybe I think part of it was maybe I thought, I don't know. It's just such a good question, and I wish I had an answer for you.
No, that was a great answer. So thank you. Um, can you please describe what was one of the toughest periods you faced professionally? And can you walk us through how it felt and how you overcame that challenge?
I mean, once I started Stand Up for Mental Health, it's really cool because it just sort of took off and it just sort of took off and it was great. In terms of what had, challenges that happened professionally, I guess one of the challenges was I had a concussion in 2019 and it was really bad. It took me about a year and a half to get better. And that was really tough because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't run my classes. I couldn't do shows. I mean, luckily or, unluckily, that was during COVID. So everything shut down and there was nothing to do. But I don't know. Once again, I guess what got me through it is just a sense that hopefully it would get better. And of course, my wife is awesome. She's my biggest fan. She's my biggest support. And that also got me through.
Nice, nice. Very good. Very good. And did the stigma behind mental illness or the fear of being judged ever stop you from reaching out and sharing what you were going through?
I think it did to a certain extent. So I used to have a real problem telling people I was seeing a psychiatrist because I thought, oh, they're going to see a I'm seeing a psychiatrist. They're going to think I'm crazy. And I didn't have a problem saying seeing a therapist because to me that was a different thing. But seeing a psychiatrist admitting that was really difficult. And there were a bunch of years where I just didn't want to talk about it. And I also didn't want to talk about being on medication and what I had to do to get better. And once again, it's not just medication that made me feel better. It was exercise and meditation and doing the things that were important to me. But yeah, I didn't want to say psychiatrist. And it took me a long time before I could actually joke about it in my act.
And how did beginning to joke about it turn things around?
Well, all of a sudden I was joking about it and it didn't, people were coming up and they're, oh, that's hilarious. And I can totally relate. I see a psychiatrist. And then all of a sudden it just didn't become such a bad thing anymore. Once again, thanks to joking about it and thanks to the wonderful feedback I got from people who could relate.
Nice, nice, nice. So, David, what does purpose mean to you now compared to how you viewed success or the meaning of it when you were younger?
Well, today, I have purpose in my life. And my purpose is to continue doing stand up for mental health, continuing to teach stand up to folks like myself with mental health and substance use issues. And like I say, that gives my life purpose because I feel like I'm doing something that's really important and that's giving back to the community. So it's not just about me doing comedy, it's about me creating these ambassadors and role models. And so that's what gives me purpose. Before that, I didn't have purpose for a lot of years. And I think when your life has meaning, that's what keeps you going. That's really important. And when your life feels like it has no meaning, I don't know, you just sort of drift.
Yes, yes, the drift. It's so subtle you don't notice it, but it
Yeah.
can be very, very, very dangerous. Yes. What makes humor, in your opinion, such a powerful tool for healing and a stigma breakthrough?
I think humor, it's just a great way to talk about things that are really, really, how can I put it? Really, and I'm putting this one way, it's like things you've been ashamed of, things that you haven't wanted to tell other people. And all of a sudden, you're telling people this stuff and you're getting people laughing and applauding and telling you how great you are. And there's a moment where you go, you know something? I'm not such a bad person after all. These people can totally relate. And I think humor is a great way of getting that message across because sometimes when you're too serious, it just really bums people out. But when you're doing it with humor, it gives people a sense of it's easier for them to talk about. I remember I knew someone who came to our shows and she brought her niece and kind of the story in that family, because this person that came had a mental health condition. And kind of the story in that family is like, ooh, Auntie has this mental health condition. Ooh. And on the way back from the show, she was able to say to her niece, I could totally relate to that guy on stage who had this and that woman who talked about this. And I have that too. And, they had a great conversation for the first time in their life. They actually were able to tackle this. And I think it's because it was funny and it was less threatening.
Yes, I love that story. Thank you. Do you have another story you could share from someone in your program who went from pain to purpose? Maybe
Yeah.
someone whose transformation really, really surprised you.
Yeah, so one of our comics, Robbie, and I'm using his name. He's fine with that. When I first met him, he has schizophrenia, and when I first met him, he had just been released from a psych facility. He had spent, I think, 6 months there, and he was finally stable, which was great because prior to being hospitalized, he thought he had to drink his own blood, and he was hearing demons and all sorts of stuff like that. So he was stable, but all he did was he would sit in his parents' basement and smoke and watch TV all day. And that's not a life. And so his mother brought him to one of our shows, and he came up to me afterwards and he had this big smile on his face. And it was like, you know something? I think I want to do that. So he joined the class, and his mother said it gave him a reason to get up in the morning. And we all need that reason to get up in the morning. So it gave him, once again, it gave him a sense of purpose, it gave him a sense of community. But he was convinced he would fail because he had failed at everything. I mean, how do you succeed at school when you're sitting in class and you have voices telling you to drink your own blood and hearing demons? I mean, how can you do algebra when that's going on? So anyhow, he succeeded in our class and then he succeeded again. And since then, he's become a rapper. He's got a couple albums out, and he said it was Stand Up for Mental Health that gave him the courage to pursue his dream. And he also gives presentations to police on mental health. So it's just a wonderful story of him overcoming and of someone that you would look at and think, man, this guy's never going to amount to anything. And like I say, he's done amazing things in his life, and he will continue to do amazing things.
Yes, yes, I love that story. And as you said, the power of purpose, and once you have it and you find it, the trajectory that it could take you in your life. Yes.
Exactly.
David, for listeners unfamiliar, what exactly is Stand Up for Mental Health? What do you teach, and how does the process work?
Okay, so Stand Up for Mental Health is my program teaching stand up to folks like myself with mental health conditions and substance use issues as a way of building confidence and fighting public stigma. And the way the class works is that we start right from the beginning. I show people all the formulas and techniques for stand up comedy. And then we go into class and we spend well, depending. So in Vancouver, it's a 6 month class. I also give the course in other cities in partnership with mental health organizations in those cities. And in those cases, the classes are virtual. And then I fly in at the end and we do a show. But we spend the next chunk of the program writing material. And so everyone has an act by the time we get to the showcase. And what's great is that we have a group to try out their material on. So by the time we get to the showcase, we know it's going to work. So the secret of comedy is preparation. And I make sure my comics are super prepared. So I've stacked the deck in their favor. They've got material. We know it's going to work. We rehearse a lot in front of the microphone, so they're ready to do that. And the audiences that come to see our shows are wonderful because they're mental health audiences in general. They know what they're getting and they're there to support us. So So I've never had anyone bomb. I mean I've had people go, oh, I'm gonna bomb. I'm the first one that's gonna bomb. And they never do because, like I say, they're totally prepared and ready to go. So that's kind of how the program works.
Nice, nice, nice. Thank you. What are some myths or misconceptions about mental illness and recovery that you wish people understood?
Well, I guess one of them is that people with mental health in recovery can do amazing things. Like I tell people once you've done stand up, you can do anything. You can get a job, you can go back to school. Once you've made a room full of people laugh, I mean, stand up is the hardest thing in the world. And I think the misconception is that when you have a label like, schizophrenia or bipolar or PTSD, people think, oh, something, we're just going to write this person off. They can't do anything. And once again, they realize what amazing things that they're capable of doing.
Nice, excellent, excellent. And if someone listening right now is in a dark place, feeling stuck in their pain, what are three concrete steps you recommend they take toward purpose or action?
Well, first of all, what I tell people is go to our website. There's like almost 200 videos of comics that I've trained across North America and into Australia. So it's a great place to go when you want some inspiration, when you want some hope. What I tell people is, if you know someone that's going through a bad time, send them to our site. Google Stand Up for Mental Health, and because when you're in that place, sometimes it feels like you'll never get better. And what I tell people is take a look at what's possible. And if these folk can do something like that, you too can do something amazing. So I think that's a really great way to inspire you and to start to get the fires of inspiration burning in you. In terms of other ways to get purpose in your life, I think I think we all have an intuitive sense of what direction to go in if we can just listen to that intuitive sense. And so I think intuition is really powerful. And I think sometimes when you have mental health or substance use issues, you've lost connection with that sense of intuition. And I think as you recover and as you're starting to be able to function in society in a healthier way, I think if you can listen to that intuition, it's a great tool. It's a great way of pointing you in the right direction.
Nice, nice, nice. Thank you. So, what's next for you in Stand Up for Mental Health?
Well, what's next is to continue doing what I've been doing all along, is continuing to run the program in different cities, get partnered with mental health organizations in those cities. And also, I do a lot of keynote speaking on my own, where I do some of my comedy about my mental health and also talk about, inspiration and what people can do and all that kind of stuff. So to do more of those, but basically to keep spreading the message and to keep empowering people who think that they can't do it. Because a lot of people come in and they tell, oh, I can never do this. I can't do this. And I want to help people succeed and to succeed beyond their wildest dreams.
Yes, I love that. I love that. If you could speak to your younger self at the beginning of your pain journey, what would you say?
I would say, I guess I would say a few things. When I was a musician, doors were not opening for me. And I would say that when you're on the right track, doors will open. And listen, once again, I would say, David, listen to your intuition, let it draw you towards what you're good at. Because what happened is that after I no longer could play, I went through a couple years of just horrible drift. And then I started to, I just got this thing, something, I think I want to help people. So I started volunteering at the crisis line. And then later on, I became their trainer. And it just felt so right to be there. And even, like as a volunteer, it's a cliche. They say, well, when one door closes, another door opens. And I hate cliches. But in my case, It was true. One door closed and gradually another door opened.
Okay, nice, nice. So, what's a quote, mantra, or inspirational piece of information that you lean on when you're feeling low?
What do I lean on when I'm feeling low? I don't know that I have a
You have a
quote.
quote or a mantra?
Not necessarily a mantra, but I guess the mantra is just keep pushing, just keep moving forward. And in my case, and it's not in everyone's case, but in my case, trust that things will point you in the right direction.
Yes, back to that intuition you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And okay, how about a quote, excuse me, a joke that you like to tell
Oh,
someone
okay.
is feeling low?
Oh, okay. So you're going to put me on the spot. Well, so I'll tell you the joke. So I talk about seeing a psychiatrist, and I say, I don't like that word psychiatrist. I was on the way to my psychiatrist, and I was talking to this woman, but I said, I'm on the way to my therapist because I didn't want to say psychiatrist in case she thought I was crazy. And then I realized how ridiculous that was. I mean, after all, she is my wife. That's one of my jokes
I
about seeing.
like it. I like it. I like it. I like it. Yes. Okay. So when you look back at your life 8 years from now, 10 years from now, say, what do you hope you'll have done that you haven't yet done?
Oh boy. I'm not sure because right now it's just keep doing what I'm doing, keep on spreading the word, keep on, doing so I guess I am doing what I want to do. And I am doing what I want to do. I think I want to try and reach as many people as possible, but I'm doing exactly what I want to do, and it feels like I'm totally in the right place right now.
Nice, 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 nice. Okay. Can you talk about a time, have you ever felt that it was the darkest moment in your life that actually prepared you for your purpose in doing what you're doing?
I guess. The dark moments in my life, the main dark moments was when I attempted suicide when I forget, I was 16 or 17, and the other darkest moments was when I could no longer play. And I guess what it did is it gave me an appreciation for what people go through and an understanding and a felt sense of what it's like to have loss in your life, what it's like to not have any purpose, what it's like to feel like you don't want to get up in the morning. Because that's how there were a couple of years where I just didn't want to get up in the morning. I would, I would get up at 4 p.m. I would turn on the TV. I would watch TV until 4 a.m. I would go to sleep and I would get up and I would do it all over again. And so those were and I think, like I say, it really gives me an appreciation and empathy for what other people are doing. I mean, that's one of the reasons I became a counselor is because I understood what people were going through and I wanted to help guide them out of that place.
Nice, nice, very good. And what truth have you learned about yourself that you wish other people still struggling with mental health could know too?
What truth have I learned about myself? Once again, it's about, I keep coming back to this, and it's interesting because I haven't been asked these questions like you're asking them. And once again, it's all about intuition. Lean on your intuition, learn how to listen to your intuition, and if you do that, I think personally, you'll end up in the right place.
Nice, nice, nice. And lastly, if someone listening today feels broken, hopeless, or unseen, what advice would you give them?
I guess advice would be um, even though it may not feel like it right now, things can get better. It may not happen quickly, it probably won't. But if you can get on the right track, things will slowly change, and they'll get better. And being on the right track, there will be setbacks, there will be relapses, there will be all sorts of stuff like that. But if you continue to be able to move forward in really small increments, it can make a huge difference in your life.
Nice, nice, nice. Very well said. Very well said. Well, there you have it, everyone. We have David G. of Stand Up for Mental Health. Tell us that website again, David.
Just Google Stand Up for Mental Health and you'll find me.
Yes, check out his classes. If you need it, he's there to help. He said that the greatest thing in all of his work was when he realized that he really, really enjoyed helping people. So if you need help, David is here. Check out his website. And this is Behind the Spotlight, where we celebrate the strength it takes to rise. Until next time, keep shining, keep healing, and keep walking in your purpose. Thank you.